Welcome back to the MedTech Mentor podcast, where we share real stories and practical wisdom to help you thrive in MedTech and beyond. I'm Crystal Howell, creator and host of the MedTech Mentor podcast. And today I'm joined by someone I've known and admired for years. And thanks to a twist of fate and a big shout out to the Entrepreneurial Women in Health group, we've recently reconnected. Becca Meehan joining us today. She's a certified coach, board member, gender equality and inclusion advocate with expertise across multiple markets. Becca's story will resonate with so many of you. After a successful corporate career, she made the courageous decision to step away from the familiar and pursue more purpose and meaning, something I know a lot of us are seeking. Birds of a feather, right?
Absolutely.
Dedicates her energy to coaching women in medtech, helping the go get hers find clarity, confidence, and fulfillment in their career. She's all about breaking barriers, embracing strengths, and leading with authenticity in a rapidly changing industry. In today's episode, you'll hear how Becca made the leap and what her journey taught her and the unique challenges and opportunities that are facing women in medtech right now. We're going to give you practical advice for building a career and a life that genuinely lights you up. So grab your coffee, get comfy, and join us for a conversation that's all about growth, courage, and community. Becca, welcome to the show. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Thanks so much, Crystal. I really want to get to know that woman you were just talking about.
Well, get cozy.
She sounds amazing.
She is. It's so good to be able to welcome you to our community and just share everything that you've learned and everything that you're doing at the moment. As I said, birds of a feather. There's so many of us right now that are looking for that purpose, that are looking for that meaning.
Yeah.
And you're stuck between the day job, you got to pay the bill. It's all about balance. And so I think it's fantastic that you're helping so many women in the industry find that balance and find, that purpose that really lights them up. Sending sunshine, as you always say.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I like a bit of sending sunshine. And it's tricky out there. And I think, we're in a really dynamic industry and it's changing all the time. And so it is about how do you find yourself in amongst all of that? And that's one of the things that I hope I bring to light with my coaching and mentoring that I do. It's just helping women, be their best self and see themselves clearly.
Absolutely. And I think that when you're in the pursuit of something like this, it's generally come as a result of you probably pursuing yourself and then figuring out what worked for you and then
Yep.
going, I want to share that with
Yeah.
anyone who will listen.
Yes. Yeah. Not to be preachy, but
But
yes,
if you,
for sure.
if you if you're picking up what I'm putting down, I'd love to share it. And so with that in mind, it would be great to just walk through some of the early career moments and those key transitions and sort of how you then started to identify these things for yourself and then ultimately go, I want to do this for others.
Mm. Yeah. Um, Gosh, well, the beginning of the career was the challenge. How do you even get into medtech? So that was probably my first experience as I was fresh, newly minted off my undergraduate degree. I ended up just knocking on doors. So I was in the States at the time and living in Colorado Springs, and there was sort of a medical device type of area where there were a few companies. And so I decided to, be the go-getter that I now know myself to be. I wasn't calling it that at the time. I just went around and started knocking on doors and asking if anybody had any entry level positions and ended up getting hired into a company called MedLogic, which had a cyanoacrylate, which is now, very popular, but way back in the day was sort of like what's that? Who's that? Type of thing. And I remember I got the hiring manager that actually ended up seeing me. I mean, like, you can't write this stuff, He ended up saying, oh, look, I just hired you because you had so much chutzpah. Like, okay, great. So I went into that, gosh, it's like a customer service rep, I think. And yeah, enjoyed that job and then kind of kept it moving after that. But that was a good first experience of just, I think if you want to make something happen, get in amongst it and and do it.
Get
Like,
it.
do the thing, lean into things that are a little bit scary. And, at the time I was so nervous knocking on doors. And it sounds crazy now, like the idea that that's how you get a job, but it worked and set me on a path. And I really fell in love with the industry and with helping people through the work that we do in med device and med tech. So that was sort of the beginning of things. And yeah,
And
and
so
then
how
from
long did it take you to go get out into the field then? Because if you're customer service, you're more inside, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So, getting out in the field, that happened when I moved to Australia. So it was a bit of distance between that moment of getting hired with the chutzpah and moving to Australia. And ultimately, that was because I decided through that job, actually, I could see that, and I mean, we're talking back in the day. I'm older than I look. That there was a
Like a
glass
fun way.
ceiling back then. It was an acknowledged glass ceiling. If you were a woman, there was a glass ceiling. And back then, there was a real glass ceiling around if you didn't have an MBA. So I made again the decision to sort of lean into how do I take ownership of, mitigating those things that maybe would have slowed me down, maybe not in the near term, but in the longer term. So I made the decision to go and get my MBA. So I ended up doing that full time because I wanted to sort of punch that out. I didn't see myself doing a long stint trying to get that educational certification. And so I took a year off, did my MBA in a year. That was pretty full on. I'm not sure I would recommend that, but it was quite the experience. And when I got to the end of that, I was really torn between, the world was my oyster and where was I going to do that? So I did my MBA in marketing and technology management, and my undergrad was in biology and psychology. And so you can kind of probably, as you now know me to be a coach, you could probably understand this little bit of a running theme here for me. So when I was doing my marketing coursework, had a great professor who said if you want to be really good at marketing, you need to have carried the bag. You need to have worked at the coalface. You need to understand what rejection is like. And so if you haven't done it before, you better get out there and be a salesperson, at least for a stint in your marketing career, so that you can be a better version of that marketer that you want to be. So long story short, I decided that I wanted to move out of Colorado Springs. It was a landlocked state. I wanted to be by the water. And so I made the decision that really I was also missing Australia, which is home. And so I moved back to Australia. And when I moved back here, I wasn't sure if healthcare was the market that I wanted to be in. And so I thought, I'm going to take the advice of that professor. And I'm also going to research the healthcare industry here in Australia and see if it's different in ways that I like compared to the States and if it's where I want to see myself working or if I need to look at another industry. So I got a job as a rep for IV therapy systems with REM systems. And that was fantastic because it took me into all the different departments of the hospitals. It gave me a really good exposure to, the different specialty areas and selling, getting rejected, cold calling, building up that thick skin you need to have.
Do you agree that you need to do that if you're going to go into marketing?
I don't know if I'm not sure I like to couch things as like absolute need because I think everybody needs to, the need is to follow your own path of what's right for you. But I do think there's a lot of merit certainly in carrying the can, being at that coalface, understanding what it feels like to represent a product in a market and to face the daily rejections that you get and the wins that you get as well and to really have to understand your customer needs. I think it's just such good training. And, throughout my marketing career, I think if you talk to people that worked with me in the various capacities I had as a marketer, most people would tell you I was a very salesy marketer. So I would not consider myself to be an academic marketer as some people are. I just wasn't great at that. In that sense. But I think, one of my strong suits was I was good at translating things for the sales team to be able to get out and get in amongst it and do what needed to get done. And I'd like to think that I created strategies and tactics through my marketing that were understanding of what it is like actually out in the field. So yeah, I think it stayed with me. So
Yeah.
I would certainly recommend it.
I'd like to think that you did really well at translating your marketing strategy as you rose through the ranks of AMS and Boston to
Yeah.
Alcon. So, when you look back, what was that defining moment that kind of shifted things for you on your perspective of leadership and marketing?
Gosh, I don't know if there was like one defining moment. I mean, I definitely had a lot of experiences in sort of my earlier career. Like when I moved from sales into marketing was a good example. Um, I took on a product manager's role. I didn't have a great relationship I was actually headhunted into it. And I just didn't have a great relationship with the manager that hired me. And I think as I look back now, what I realize, hindsight being what it is that I didn't have the communication skills back then. Like I wish I had a coach like me with me back then to help me navigate that space of those tricky conversations and to be able to advocate for what I needed to get the best out of me and to communicate in a way with her that provided the clarity I needed to give her what she needed as my manager. And I think, who knows where I would have ended up if I had those skills back then. It was a defining moment, I guess, in the sense of there came a point where I realized, oh, I'm putting all my best effort in and I'm not really getting where I want to go with this. And so it was a lesson in letting it go and realizing that sometimes it's not good alchemy. And like it wasn't that I didn't grow, I grew a lot, I learned so much. But I think sometimes some relationships are really difficult to move beyond the dynamic that you've created together. And so it can be easier in a way to park that and acknowledge that it's maybe not going to be ideal and move on to the next thing. And where you start in the next place is really a much better foundation for doing better the next go around. It's like you get a do-over and you get to start in that next job being the best version of yourself at that point in time, which is different than what you'll be like down the road in a few years and where you will be at that point in time. So I think that was like a really good learning moment for me of um,
You don't
yes,
feel like you did at the time, right? But when you're able to look back,
it was soul destroying at the time. I just felt crushed
so you
because,
you can't see the lesson yet. You just see the it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
yeah, yeah. And I think like when you put so much of yourself and so much effort into trying to get it right. And back then I was very, very much about how do I get the external validation to tell me that I'm doing a good job. So I just felt like I was failing all the time. And when I look back, I wasn't. I was probably doing a pretty darn good job, but it didn't feel that way to me. And so that was demotivating. And there was a bit of a cycle that went on with that. So, um, yeah, it's a good lesson in mindset and, seeing yourself through your own eyes and sort of your fact versus your fiction and the narratives that play in your head versus worried about how somebody else is validating you. It's like what you know to be true for yourself. And it's okay. We're not everybody's cup of tea all the time. And that's okay. That was a good lesson too.
That's a hard lesson to learn, especially in a competitive field like MedTech, where there's
Mm,
so much external validation for what you're doing, the number that you're hitting, the
yeah.
that you're winning or not winning.
Yeah. It's very subjective too. For all the KPIs we have, there's a lot of subjective measure in there. So I think that makes it confusing also, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you think about this experience that you had of chasing this goal, you were headhunted for this role. You
I
must be
know.
perfect for
It
it,
was my first marketing role too. So it was very like, my gosh, if I'm failing at this, does this mean I'm not a good marketer? Does this mean I have no career? I mean, like all the stuff was going through my head. Lots of less than positive self chatter going on, I think, at the time. But then I got really lucky, or I made my own luck, however you want to think of that. Um, yeah, the chutzpah kicked in again, the innate who I am in amongst it. And I ended up going to work for a powerhouse of a woman called Erica O'Donnell. She's still in the industry. She works at Ambu. Phenomenal. And, she just was so much drive and ambition. She was so much positivity. She was just awesome to work for. Like we had a lot of ups and downs, not between us, but like the work that we were doing, we were in the business of primarily custom procedure packs, which is a pretty competitive, dynamic space to be in. And, she used to just push us so hard to be the best we could be for, as a whole team, as individuals. But we also laughed so much. Like, we had so much fun. So she was probably the first one in my career that really taught me that you can push really hard, you can create a great team, but you can do that with a lot of laughter and humor in amongst it. And so it can be that duality of like that hard driving, but also lightness of getting the work done. And I'll never forget, we had a sterilizer go down. Is a pretty big deal if you're in custom packs. And it was down for several weeks, maybe even a couple months. I'm hard pressed to remember, the memory's failing with perimenopause, but it was quite a while. And I remember that she was just very much a leader of like, let's find a way to make it happen. And we ended up recreating every single one of our custom packs with sterile components. So we had to rewrite all of our design files, get everything reapproved. It was basically like a whole do-over of every individual pack that we had and supplying that out into the marketplace. So there was like a lot of logistics challenges. It was so multifaceted, like the levels of hell that was. But at the end of the day, the thing I remember about that most is that, yes, it was a really stressful time, but the way that she led and the way that organization came together was such a testament to, like, you can have fun in amongst all of that. And there was such pride for each of us in what we accomplished. Like, we didn't lose a customer. The customer loyalty that we gained through that experience was really shocking, actually. You wouldn't have thought so. I mean, custom packs, the whole premise is that you need to have the pack there on the table where they want to do an operation. So, and with all the things that they want to do the operation for that procedure. So, that was that was a big deal. And yet it was kind of one of those, what is it, a net sum zero sort of game, because you weren't doing anything to elevate. You were just supplying the same product, but having to jump through so many hoops to get to the same thing or an equivalent that could make it work out the other side. So that was really a great lesson with her of amazing leadership.
So you go from a manager that doesn't light you up, but isn't
Yeah,
necessarily asking you to do this kind of hard stuff.
no,
But to go to work with Erica, and she's asking you to do something that you don't even know if you're getting the value from a market
yeah.
expansion or perspective.
Or
It's
if we could even do it. Like, it
even
was, yeah,
super hard, but the feeling that you remember of her and what she's left with you is that you can do really hard stuff like that and have a good
yeah,
moment. So when you reflect back on that, like, are you able to help us as leaders? What did Erica do when you're like, hey, you see
yeah,
a mountain that you don't even know? I'm not even going to go with the why yet. We just need to do it. And you're like, yeah,
yeah.
we'll do it and have fun. And what did she do? How did she cultivate that environment?
I think it was a lot to do with just how she cared for people. And I guess as I was reflecting on, like, coming into this podcast with you, I was reflecting on over my career, like, what are the things that are sort of the themes through it all. And I think, and how that translates now for me in terms of what I'm doing with coaching. And it's so much about like being seen and being felt to be understood, and like being accepted for who you are. Not that you're perfect or that you're all things to that person, but that they acknowledge that your intentions are good and that you're working so hard and that you continually trying to, you know, do more and be more. And I think some of that is like also my personality of, I have a drive to want to deliver good stuff to people regardless of, I want good outcomes. I really care about people, the people I work with, the patients at the other end of the products that I'm selling. And so, yeah, kind of that alchemy of those things combined So, yeah, I think for me, a lot of times it really comes back to caring leadership. And Erica was one of the more caring leaders in my early career. And I think that was, part of it. You just wanted to do your best.
Yeah. One of the things that is coming to me, I recently did one of the brand script workshops, and through the personality assessments, I think maybe half the room had caring profiles.
Yeah.
And they all looked at their profile and went, "Man, I was like, why?" And they were like, "Oh, well, care doesn't make you a good CEO, doesn't make you a good leader."
Yeah, it does.
And I was like,
It's
"Wait, what?"
foundational.
I was like, "Wow, I'm really surprised that was the reaction," because
Mm,
to your point, it's one of the cornerstones of being a
yeah.
good leader. If you don't have care for those in your report, it's like being a general without care for your soldiers.
Mm.
If
You
you
can do it without care, for sure. But it doesn't land the same, and I think, when it comes to discretionary effort, people will give you the shirt off their back if they feel like you care about them. They're a lot less likely to do that if they feel like you're just about the bottom dollar and that their efforts are just a means to an end for you.
yeah,
So, simple human behavior, really.
this podcast, there's been so many that have talked about their greatest mentors
Mm.
and their greatest leaders that have left that feeling with them, and that always comes through. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that you
And I think it even goes deeper than that, Crystal, because I think it's also self care gets really lost in amongst it. And if I think about all the women that I've spoken to over the years, that there's a recurring theme of like a lot of self care goes out the window as we're caring for others. And, I believe that as we take care of ourselves, if we do that really well, then we're able to, it's like our cup. There's a saying that I know of like, if your cup is 51% full, at all times, then you will always have something in it to fill up somebody else's cup. But if you deplete your cup to below that 51%, then you're trying to fill somebody else's out of an empty vessel, basically. I just think the self care thing is super important as well. We sort of It's easy to lose sight of that, I guess, in the busyness of trying to get all the things done. One of the turning points in my career actually was, so I had an amazing, wonderful career at Boston Scientific. They went through a round of restructures after COVID. That organization was phenomenal through the COVID period. They didn't let anyone go for a long time. And so there was a bit of a recalibration that was needed at a certain point. And so there were a round of redundancies. My role was part of that. But the way that unfolded for me was really a beautiful process. I'm so grateful for that experience. It taught me a lot about trust, lean into the idea that everything that's happening to you is happening for your highest self. It was a moment in time where I got more clarity on something that I'd been working on for myself around what was it that was really making my heart sing in the work that I was doing. And I was hugely passionate about what I was doing. I used to work in men's health and have so much passion for that. And for those patients that are out there that need the products that we were selling. So I'm to this day still advocate for those products. But yeah, it was a really good experience of what you've put into the world as you've been working your way through things really comes back to you. I felt so loved and so much. I had people that reached out to me that I hadn't had working connections with in Boston for a couple years that were like, "Oh, we heard your role was made redundant. We're so sorry that you're leaving. And you really changed my world because of this, that, or the other thing that you said this one time." And it was just so beautiful. And so, yeah, as I'd been reflecting in my career up until that point anyway, one of the things that I realized that really made my heart sing was all of the mentoring work that I did. I found that that was the thing if I had a mentoring session that I was going to do in my day, as much as I was passionate about my day job, the mentoring thing was the highlight of my day. I was having the best time just being in amongst it with people. So that when the redundancy came through, that was something that I really did a lot of reflecting on. So what does the next iteration of me look like in my professional career? And I thought, right, I'm going to do some coaching qualifications. Why not? If not, why not? I didn't know what I was going to do with them at the time. I just thought, oh, this will be another string to add to my bow and it'll be interesting. And it's something that I really love doing. So I just kind of leaned into that and did that. Yeah. So that was a really good process for me and definitely a defining moment in amongst it. And a good reminder that, what's that? The Maya Angelou quote around how you leave people feeling is what they remember. And, definitely I felt the love of the way I'd cared for people along the way, genuinely, and that came back to me tenfold. So,
You
yeah,
stop and reflect. There could have been two different paths to that. There could have been, oh shit, I've just been made redundant. What do I do
yeah,
now?
mm,
Or there could have been a pause and a reflective moment where you went, what should I do now?
yeah,
You know? What
yeah,
what really is what lights me up? What does it feel like I don't need to get paid for this. It just feels
yeah,
good, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah,
should be doing more of that. And I
yeah.
think that you have to really calm the farm in those moments of those,
I said that quite a bit.
yeah,
Calm the farm.
calm the farm, right? She literally has a mini farm with lots of ducks. That's another conversation. To maintain the emotional management and not react to this has happened and not being productive with it, you
Mm.
know? Like
I
you
mean, I will give you a slight course correction on this. It's a beautiful narrative, but I definitely had the "oh shit" moment. It really, I have to say, it really rocked my world in the sense of I was so committed to the patient population that I served through my role. And I had such a vision for what I wanted to see in the APAC region for product adoption. And it wasn't about, I was never about like, oh, I've got to sell the most. It was about, I want to help the most people. And I truly believe that we have had great quality of product that had its worthy right place in the market. And so for me, it was the being disconnected from that and having to sort of off the vision that I had, or that my sense of purpose in that work was like taken away from me, that I wasn't going to be able to do that anymore. And it was quite interesting because I think people were trying to give me heads up along the way without saying what was coming of, Becca, you've been doing what you're doing for a long time. Don't you think you want to, maybe you should try a different product area or, and I was like,
choice.
yeah, yeah. But to be fair, like I guess my map of the world though is that was right for me. It was right for me. I have zero regrets. I think it's at the time, sometimes you don't realize what's going on for you and that it is about, the universe has something better in store for you around the corner. And I trusted in that. I'd done a lot of self development over the years. And so I really did believe quite firmly that there was always something to serve me better and for me to serve better around the corner. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. And so, that was the right thing for me. It wasn't a play it safe strategy. I was definitely out on, I was out on the limb.
I mean, so far I've known you for years and just in
Yeah.
this like 45 minutes, there's never been oh, there's Becca, play it safe.
No, it's not really my thing, I
Not the
guess.
feeling you leave, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Which is why we're birds of a feather.
Yeah.
So walk us back through the oh shit moment
Mm,
and then how do you get to um the awareness that this is, you know, whether or not you asked for it, but this is the right thing for you. Like, we like to try to get it tactical for our listeners because
mm,
between the idea and the concept and then the reality is really hard. That is,
yeah.
is the science of it, of going from all up in my head, I know exactly what I need to do, to actually getting my body to do it and follow it and move into action.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot to be, and that was why I made the comment of like a little bit of a course correct, because it wasn't all peaches and cream as it
Yeah.
unfolded. There was definitely the oh shit moment. But then, I don't know, I think I'm a big believer in give yourself a minute to wallow in it. It's okay. Like, give yourself a minute to just feel what you're feeling, or more than a minute if you need more than a minute, you know? I think my belief system really helped me in that I always do believe that there's something better for you. There's something that you may not know is happening that's going to work out for you. So that's kind of an overarching thing. But then, so that allows you to sit in it for a little minute or two and kind of go, oh, this doesn't feel fantastic. But then in the allowing of the different emotions to come up, one of the things that I did realize was there was some relief. At the end of the day, I think that the stars weren't aligning as well around my product portfolio. And when I was able to look back at that, I knew that. I knew that was like what was going on. It was getting increasingly more difficult to champion the products that I had. And that just is what it is. It's the way businesses go. Sometimes things are more in favor, sometimes they're less in favor. It was getting harder and harder to do my role. And so, there was some relief in as I sort of acknowledged and wallowed in my feelings of I just got rejected and severed from this thing that I love so much and all the team members that I love so much and that I really went to bat for on a daily basis. It was like a what's going to happen for all of them. So, yeah, I think being in those emotions, really getting real with yourself about like what was actually coming up for me. Like there was relief that was coming up. And so that was a good indicator for me of that maybe this I knew it maybe wasn't as healthy for me to continue to be doing what I was doing, but I just didn't see my avenue out to the next thing because I had such a care and sense of commitment to the space I was in. And then really looking at that and kind of going, okay, well, what is the next thing? And so, part of me doing my coaching qualifications was to really give myself something to keep me mentally stimulated that had a sense of forward progression that I didn't really know where it was going to end up, but it was a bit about like mental health for me of just like, okay, I'm going to invest in me. I'm going to learn a new skill because I have some time on my hands. I was on gardening leave. As I said, Boston was very kind. I was on gardening leave for a while. There was an intention that if there was another role that came up that I would rehire into that so it wouldn't be like a redundancy. So yeah, so what do you do with a lot of downtime? You can really get in your head about things. So I decided to study.
And it wasn't that long before you ended up in another role. So then you're
No,
now in two heads of like, I can tell there's something else out there for me, but I found myself in another corporate role. So at what
yeah.
point did it go, okay, no, this is it. I'm going all in.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think my my love of working in the APAC region was really strong. And so when the opportunity was there at Alcon to go into an APAC regional role, it was sort of an override for me. I was like, I get to go to that again, that rich tapestry of my life that came from being in an APAC position that I love so much. The diversity of thought and food and cultures, all of it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I'll do that again. And I thought, oh, I'll do this coaching thing as like a side hustle,
And we laughed.
which
The universe has
we do laugh. Yeah, yeah, you laugh at that because, you just never have time for the side hustle is the thing that ends up happening. And then I am a lucky duck because I ended up having a redundancy with Alcon. They did a wave about, I don't know, 18 months or so into being in that role. And it happened to coincide with my 50th. And I just went, if not now, when? Jump in, baby girl. So
it's like the second nudge going.
yeah, it was so clear to me. It was like the universe just sort of saying, you got to get out of your own way and get into this thing. Get in
Yeah.
your lane. You're in the wrong lane. Get in your
Doing
lane.
all of this. I have to take some of this away.
Yeah. 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 You have to reimagine what your future is going to be like. And so, yeah, it was just, I felt such a strong sense of peace. And, I knew I, yeah, I think, I think there was a little bit of surprise in a way as the redundancy came through of like how I rolled with the punches. So I was like, okay, that's great. Thanks for that.
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was the other thing too, that one of the things that I did when I went through the redundancy with Boston Scientific was that I was very clear with myself about the language that matters. And so for me, I very quickly, upon the redundancy of role, I started to say my role was made redundant, because so often what you hear is, I was made redundant. So there's a real internalizing of that process, which is not often so not personal. And so for me, just that real distinction in the language that I used for myself, not for anybody else, but for myself, my role was made redundant. I was super clear on that. I wasn't. I have lots of amazing skills and very transferable skills, as evidenced by what I've done over the last few years. So, I'm fine from that standpoint. But I think that distinction of not internalizing it to this is a problem with me. I think you always want to be growing and leveling up and working on yourself. But there's no need to kind of go hard at yourself about like I was made redundant. So that's probably one of my tips for those out there in the redundancy crush at the moment. It's your role that got made redundant, not you.
Good point. And I think this is a good, preview of what to expect of the type of support and the language that you use and your style as
Mm.
a coach and a mentor. So tell us a little bit about your current practice. Like, who are you supporting?
Any go-getter that's out there, and I don't know that I've met very many women in the med tech industry that are not go-getters, so come one, come all. I love working with women, and that's because I've done a lot of work. Dee and I work over the years. I've led chapters at Boston and Alcon, and been very involved in that and had such joy, and that has sparked so much. What has it sparked? It's like different ways of thinking about the world and what's going on in it, and wanting to, I think I'm very much a person who wants to be part of the change, so that work for me is really important, that I continue to do that. And I've seen so many women through the years of mentoring in the organizations I've worked in and beyond those. It's like I see so many women who get in their head about things, and the self chatter could be more positive, and I'm just all about like empowerment for women. So I decided to really get in that lane very specifically. And as I was doing reflecting on myself over the course of different things like the redundancy with Boston, I really I wanted to be what I would have loved to have had in those early days, when I was struggling to communicate effectively with my manager, or when I was having those difficult decision points to navigate in my career. I would have loved to have had somebody like me who sort of lived it, that was available to me. And so, yeah, I wanted to work with women that was sort of early mid career, and that was a big thing for me. Obviously, again, very inclusive. So if you feel called to work with me, then there's probably a reason why. I believe we're all teaching each other something. So reach out. But yeah, I think with the younger, just getting started in their med tech career, or those mid career women that are feeling a little bit lost and not having the clarity that they want around their career, I think that's a space where, through this process of coaching, helping them see themselves more clearly and build their confidence. They are building their confidence. I'm not building it for them. I'm just holding the space, but being able to hold that space for them so they can take that time to reflect and work on their goals and figure out what's really important to them and how they want to move forward. That over the course of time, the impact of that is so much greater, because if you help somebody with that in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s, they've still got a long runway to go of making use of those skills. So, I'm still learning things that maybe I could have learned years ago. Uh,
Always
yeah,
growing. So early to mid career is the sweet spot. But again,
yeah,
welcome all.
yeah.
What do you think are the particular challenges, if we were to put it in the current context, for those early and mid career women in med tech right now? What are you seeing in your practice outside of the negative, like self talk and imposter syndrome, which we know is always present?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking probably more external, with the way the industry is changing. There's so much going on with technology.
Yeah.
What do you see are the particular challenges for those mid to early to mid career women that you're coaching?
I think there's a lot of noise out there. I look back and the dinosaur that I feel like I am sometimes, I joke about it all the time, like as we were coming onto the podcast, the tech, it's not my forte. But when I think about like my early career, there wasn't all this tech that we have now. You didn't have smartphone. You weren't always getting pinged with the emails. It wasn't that you were constantly accessible. Things like work life balance weren't necessarily things that were getting talked about a lot because it just was a little bit more balanced back then, I think. So I think there's a lot of things that have created a lot of noise. I think we do work in a increasingly competitive environment in medtech. And now there's this new competitor of AI that's coming in. So there's a bit of ambiguity around what does that mean for me? And so I think that translates to, a question around security. Do I have security in my job? I think the landscape of redundancies being more common of an experience is changing things also. Because at the end of the day, a redundancy isn't personal. Well, that's my view anyway. Maybe I should have looked at it differently, but my takeaway is it's not personal. It's just business. So it doesn't, if it's not personal and you can think of it as a not personal experience that's happening, it's not about it's not necessarily about your performance. Sometimes you just happen to be in the wrong role when the wheel turns around and lands on that's the role that's getting chopped. And it's not necessarily about you or the skills that you have or how well loved you are in an organization. It's just sometimes that stuff happens. I think there's a lot of career expectations are high. It's talked about a lot. I think that's one of the shifts that's happened. I think more so over the last decade is there's a lot of talk about like your career development. What are you going to do? What are you going to be when you grow up? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And there's an expectation that you kind of have that all figured out. Or the perception is there's an expectation that you have that all figured out. And there's less discussion, I think, these days around the acceptability to sort of, as Art Butcher at Boston Scientific used to say something like, run to the fire. So sometimes your career journey is about, are you running to the fire? Like it's not necessarily a linear, you go from this role to this role to this role. It's like, running to the fire means go where you can offer the best of your skills and tackle something that's maybe it's a hard thing to tackle, but it's a necessary thing to tackle for that business to be successful. And so if you can do it well, it's a great elevator for you in your career. But it doesn't necessarily look like a straight line. So it could look like a bit of a zigzag if you're running to where you can contribute most. So I think that's something that maybe doesn't get talked about as much.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the language around that. Run to where you can contribute most.
Yeah.
And
Run to the fire.
that would be really purposeful, right? Because
Yeah.
that's where the greatest need is, the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to have it figured out. And then along the way, as you put out this fire and that fire,
The
you might,
next thing will reveal itself.
yes, it will reveal what's the next stage. And so,
Mm.
with helping individuals in this space, what do you, how do you like sort of help them peel back those layers? Because what I can do is different to what anyone else can do, and vice versa. I've heard you talk about our own native genius before.
Yeah.
Because that would be if I'm going to run to the fire, like you're going to have an understanding of like, what I can do, how I can make
Yeah.
an impact on that.
Yeah.
So, how do you help women in the industry uncover that?
Gosh, there's a lot of discovery, uncovery work that goes on. I'm a big one for be able to see yourself really clearly. There are conversations to be had around fact versus fiction. I say that a lot. Everybody's running a narrative in their head. And There's a quote that I like to reference, which I will butcher, but and I don't know who it comes from it, but it's along the lines of, is the story that's in your head the most empowering story you can be telling yourself without changing the facts of the situation or the people involved or anything else? It's like, is that narrative that you are telling yourself about what's actually going on the most empowering narrative that you can have? And if the answer is no, then rewrite it.
Give yourself permission, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the person that impacts the most initially is you. And then flowing on from that is everybody else that you can help when you get out of your own way. When you stop telling yourself you're not good enough and you start seeing how you bring something special to the situation. When you stop expecting yourself to have perfection and you realize that progress is really important. And what is perfect anyway?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of that, lot of working with narratives, mindset, getting curious, uncovering things about ourselves, holding a safe space for people to kind of dive into what really is motivating for them, how they really think about things.
Yeah. All I was just thinking is that a lot of the times you don't even realize the story that you're telling yourself. And so by
Yeah.
having someone like you that creates that caring environment, that trusting environment, you can start to peel back those layers and actually say out loud the things that you might say
Yes.
to yourself. And then when
Yeah.
you hear them out loud, it's so different to even if you write them. Have you ever done the morning pages exercise?
Yes.
There's something that happens,
Yeah, when you let it flow out your fingertips through the pen.
and it's like around the second page. The first page is like all very kind of like surfacey, and then the second page, and then oh my gosh, somewhere between the second and third phase, that like really bitchy voice in my head came out, and I'm like, whoa, where did that
Whoa, hello.
spicy? And then you look at it and you go, wow, okay, it's out. Now I can actually look at it. And
Mm,
I think that would be a really great gift that you're able to give the females in your practice, that space to get it out, because I think that's
yeah,
where you actually then go, oh wow, that is a story that I've been telling myself. And when I actually peel back the layers, like how much of that story is based on objective data? Like how much of that is
that's it. What's the evidence? Where are your facts?
true. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
my coach used to call it like it's corrupt data. It's
yeah,
data that's been corrupted. And then
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it is that process that is so powerful. So asking powerful questions in those moments and also, reflecting back to clients what I'm seeing or what I'm hearing them say. So it's not my words necessarily. It's like, do you realize that you've just said XYZ?
Yeah. I just
So what
observe
does
it.
that mean for you? And, what comes up for you when you hear that back? Where do you think that's coming from? Having that time to actually reflect on those things and have a sounding board to sort of say the thing out loud. What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Okay, so how do we baby step our way to that? Do a little cha cha to get there, you know?
You're their dancing partner. But I like what you said about there just being so much noise out there at the moment, because it can get really overwhelming, which
Yeah.
is why I embrace practices of meditation and journaling, because if I don't, it's really hard to find some quiet, reflective time.
Mm,
And once I've gotten to build in those practices, it's not to say that I do them religiously. I don't, but I can feel when I need to do them. And it makes
yeah.
a huge difference to then how I can then move forward. But those are gifts that were given to me by amazing coaches. So I think that
Yeah.
the people around you and your village that you surround yourself with are so important. And it sounds like you really do tailor your approach for those different career stages and those different personalities. Like even that question that I asked earlier, like, is it a good thing to go do sales? You're like, well, it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Is that successful? It depends on the individual. Does that
It's
work?
really Yeah. It's really so much, I think, of what I do is around being present for people because I truly believe that everybody has the healing that they need inside of themselves. So we are our own best coach because we know ourselves best. But sometimes all that noise gets in the way and we stop seeing ourselves clearly. And so I think that's one of the things that I try to do is hold that space for somebody to be able to get to know themselves again, get to know themselves here and now. Because sometimes we think we know ourselves, but it's the old version of us, and how we're actually showing up in the world is quite different than the narrative that we have running in our head about who we are and what we do and what we're all about. Yeah, so it's kind of a rediscover yourself, find your authentic self and, live accordingly.
And how do you keep learning and unlearning and investing in yourself as a coach? What are your
Gosh,
go-tos?
I have a coach. I have a couple. I lean into the messy middle. So anybody that knows me knows that like I'm always working on a little something. I'm always digging for that bit of gold. What else do I do? I am very intentional about who I surround myself with. So I think, like you were saying earlier, like birds of a feather. So I do try and have diversity in my flock that I have that I'm part of, but I'm selective about who that is, so and what energy they're bringing in. So I think that's important as well in terms of like how you get challenged by people that maybe don't think quite the same way as you, but like can challenge you in that respectful way that allows you to like go into yourself and maybe change your opinion about something. I have a variety of different things that I do to like I'm on the Women in MedTech committee with the MTAA. I do that because obviously I'm passionate about like diversity, equity, inclusion. That's a big thing. And that's an amazing group of people that challenge my thinking and challenge me to show up better day in and day out. I'm on the board of a not for profit called Share the Spark. We work with at risk youth to help prevent suicide and to help them find their spark of resilience, to give them a bit more direction in life at times where maybe they're struggling a little bit. So that's important. That fires me up and gives me different thinking, and it's a way of giving back. I think that's important. Giving back is a big thing for how I continue to sort of grow and learn. As you said, I'm part of the Entrepreneurial Women's Network. So that's something that's more recent, which is amazing. It's just such a dynamic group of women. So I try and be around other women that get me like fired up to do more, be more, contribute more. I'm doubling down on my coaching certifications. So I'm doing coaching again, perpetual student, but I'm doing that through the Beautiful You Coaching Academy that Julie Parker has created. And it is just such a beautiful experience to learn through that academy. It's so heart centered, it's so professional. Watching what she's created and how that unfolds as a trainee in her course, it's like a constant reminder while I'm in it to level up and keep doing better. So that's always inspiring. And gosh, I do a lot of reading.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
this is the females in the room are like, yeah, yeah, I get that. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny though because it's like, that old adage of like when you do something that you love,
Yeah.
you're not really working, and it feels like that for me. Like it's, investing in people and investing in myself. I guess that's a skill I've learned over time is like it's important to invest in myself. I'm important in amongst it all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so these things fill up my cup as much as they are allowing me to fill other cups up.
And I was just about to say you need a really big cup because you're working with a lot of people.
I do. I have a big one. I've got a bucket.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Part. What is what's your morning ritual or your habit that you swear by to start your day? I've got a big smile
So
on.
you're gonna laugh at this one, but my morning ritual is literally to get my ducks in a row. So I start my day. I actually have ducks, so I start my day with cuddles with my ducks and letting them out to roam. And I sit and I have my coffee, sitting in stillness with them, and that just sets me right for the day. And then I go and I write my to-do list. I'm a big list taker. So I write a to-do list and then I get about starting to tick things off that list.
Yeah.
So that's my morning ritual most mornings. If I don't get that, I'm a little bit like off kilter.
In a row. Yes. Well, and they wouldn't like there's no skipping past. You'd have to go back. You have to go outside and check on them and do that. And what a
Yeah.
great way to start the day. There's I'll have to send you this gentleman. He's got a YouTube channel and he's got a maremma. So side note here, guys, but he has a flock of ducks and every time he would let them out, he would go, release the quacken.
Yeah. Oh, I joke about the quackery. There's a quackery out the back and they're going crazy. So
Well,
yeah, they rule my life, but I'm happily a slave to the ducks.
yeah. Oh my goodness. The duck conversations at home with my youngest persist. He's
Good.
really, really
Careful.
wanting to get ducks. So I might be joining you in this soon.
Goodness. Careful what you wish for.
A flood with LinkedIn with like duckinisms. um, but look, one of the things that I was going to ask you, but I might take the liberty of answering this question is one
Mm.
word to describe your mentoring style. And I don't have one word, I have a few, but I definitely think care, presence,
Mm.
laughter. And so those are my words. Do you have anything that you think I've missed?
Holistic. I like to really look at the whole person.
Yeah.
Definitely care would be in there and support.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
what care is, you know,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There for all of
And and a very healthy dose of fun.
yes.
I think like if you ask clients that I have, they would say there's a healthy lot of laughter and sometimes there's tears along the way, but they're good tears. It's the cleansing, get them out of the system so we can move on, sort of tears as we uncover ourselves, but certainly a lot of fun along the way.
Yep. Yeah, as I expected. And it really comes through when you talk about Erica and the
Yeah.
feeling that she left you
Yeah.
was like the light bulb moment
Yeah, it really was.
that made an impact on you and then how you then extend that to others. So really excited to be able to welcome you to the MedTech Mentor Committee as a mentor, within our group. I know you're out there doing amazing work and look as our new sponsor with MedTech.
Yeah. Hey, women supporting women, Crystal. It's like I'm all about that.
But she's actually going to offer not just one, but too many who would like to reach out to her a free 30-minute discovery call for MedTech Mentor listeners, as well as a 25% discount on her coaching and mentoring practices. And so I just want everyone that's listening to this 30-minute call, to have that opportunity to have someone who's present, caring, holistic. It's going to bring some fun and some laughs into it. What a great gift. And I'm really grateful, Becca, for you sharing the time with us, with me, and the wider MedTech Mentor community. Very grateful.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to you. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's not my forte to get in front of the camera and be the speaker. I'm usually the one doing the interviewing process. So this is uncomfortable for me, but it's really about the impact that we can have. And just, I'm a big one for vulnerabilities. So I think just lay it all out there. People will figure out what works for them or what doesn't. And yeah,
Yeah,
if it
exactly.
can help one person, it's worth doing.
100%.
Yeah.
I again very, very aligned in that with that
Yeah.
in that sense. As you know, this podcast has been a hobby, a passion. I hope for it to be more,
Oh,
but
it's so beautiful.
I really appreciate every time, even though it's been sporadic, is that whenever I talk to someone and they say, I listened to that, it made an impact on me in such a
Yeah.
way, it just melts away any of the stress, any of the expectations that I put on myself, any of the challenges and hardships. And it's like, that's why you keep doing
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
thank you for pushing yourself outside your comfort zone.
I so appreciate what you've created here. It's just beautiful. Like what you're giving back to the industry. I think it's how I talk about like my coaching business. It's really, I'm in the stage in my life where I'm wanting to be for purpose. And it's maybe that's counter to like a for business type of thing. But I think what you're doing is so for purpose and so beautiful what you're giving back to the community. It's just awesome. So I'm very happy to support you and very grateful that you, for some crazy reason, thought it would be a good idea to interview me.
No, it's not crazy at all. It's fantastic. We've been having so many sidebar conversations, and as we were having those conversations, I was like, "Becca, hey, we have good conversations. We should have one on the podcast." Ladies, if you're ready to take your medtech career to the next level, Becca is here to help. So do not wait, do not delay. As soon as you hear this, jump out, reach out to her, grab 30 minutes. You will not be sorry. Thank you all for listening. Thank you again, Becca. Have an awesome day,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks so much, Crystal.
All right, everybody, that's our show. If you enjoyed this and found it informative, please like and share on social media with hashtag MedTech Mentor Podcast. For one of our lucky listeners who've shared, they will be selected for the 1 hour mentoring session with our guest. For more information, please look at our website, medtechmentor.com.au. Thank you all and see you next time.